Right guys, before we get stuck into this video, I've got a very important announcement and I need you to pay attention. A lot of you still haven't subscribed to the channel. So what I need you to do, hit the subscribe button, support the channel, support me. If you're shopping at Trade by JP, use code Kuba10. If you're shopping with Hard Body, use code Kuba. Show me some love, show channel some love, and I'll get you more content going. Thank you guys, enjoy the video. Welcome back YouTube. Today we are going to cover a bodybuilding diet to gain maximal muscle mass. We are always aiming to gain as much muscle tissue or try and hold as much tissue as we physically can when we are in a diet phase. So today I really wanted to cover nutritional basics and a strategy that will allow you to gain maximum muscle mass. The first point that I want to cover is protein. This is a macronutrient that I believe you should always prioritize as the first macronutrient that you set within your diet. You always want to aim between 1 gram up to 2 grams, and even in some cases 2.5 grams of protein per lean pound of body weight. When you are setting your protein targets, I always favor setting them without any indirect sources. When you look at setting up your nutrition, start with protein first. Aim to hit your protein target coming all from direct protein sources. So you want it to come from fish, meats, eggs, egg whites, whey, yogurt. You want it to come from a variety of different protein sources, which I will cover. I'm actually going to give you my top 5 protein sources, but in a little while. Where your protein needs will change and vary depends if you are in the off season or if you are in a contest prep. The deeper you get into the off season, the deeper you get within your gaining phase. When your calories start to go up, you will find that you will be eating so much carbohydrates, your protein needs and your ability to digest the protein may actually be a little bit diminished. So this is where you may need to pull back on your protein if your protein intake is towards the 2 gram mark per gram of lean body weight. The main reason for that is carbohydrates are protein sparing. So when it comes to your protein needs lower as you are actually pushing your food up and you are eating for performance through adding more carbohydrates. When it comes to protein, it is not a great energy source. In order for your body to utilize protein as energy, it has to go through a process that's called glucogenesis. I can never ever say it right. Anyway, you get the picture.
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, go on, say it.
Is it gluconeogenesis? Gluconeogenesis,
that's the one. So, it has to go through the process of gluconeogenesis. And it's not a straightforward process. When it comes to the actual fuel sources, we'll cover that in a little bit, carbohydrates are your best friend. This is where your body will utilize carbohydrates as its primary fuel source for training performance. As carbohydrates come up, your protein needs may actually need to come down depending on your digestion, your appetite, and where you are within your off season. So be mindful of that. So back on protein, you want to set your targets between 1 to 2 grams of protein per lean pound of body weight. Some cases, it might be even higher. In an instance where you are coming out of a post-show phase and your hunger is incredibly high, this is where I would always bring up your protein, because protein is extremely beneficial when it comes to satiety. So when you eat higher amounts of protein, you simply will not feel as hungry. And if you overeat on protein, because it's so hard for your body to utilize protein as energy, it's almost impossible. It will be extremely hard for you to store body fat from a protein source. However, when it comes to fats and carbohydrates, it's a completely different story. Your body likes to store fat very easily as a macronutrient source as opposed to protein. These are my guidelines for gaining maximal muscle mass and setting your protein. So recap. The best protein intake to gain muscle mass. You want to aim for 1 gram up to 2 and even 2.5 grams of protein per lean pound of body weight. Where your protein needs will vary is whether you're in a contest prep. As your carbohydrates come down, your protein needs may actually come up. As your carbohydrates increase in an off-season setting, your direct protein may need to come down. When you first set your protein intake, I always favor setting it coming from all direct protein sources. So you do not want to count rice, potatoes, and your carbohydrate sources as your protein source for your overall protein intake when you set up your diet initially. Hope that's clear. Now moving on, my top 5 protein sources. Number 1, it has to be whey protein. Eddie Abu, sorry, Sorry, but whey, especially good quality whey, it's the most bioavailable protein source you can have. Number 2, it would be red meat. Number 3, eggs. Number 4, turkey or fish. I do like a mixture of both. I'm going to put them both in the same category because they're very lean. So a lean meat source or lean fish source. Number 5, I would actually put yogurt in place. An amazing source of protein, great for gut health, and a great source of calcium that most people are deficient in. And number 6, I'm going to give you 6, I'm treating you today, it's going to be salmon. This is my 6 protein sources that I always prefer to use within my diet structure. And I do like to keep as much variety in my diet as possible through variety of different protein sources. Now guys, moving on to fats. And the reason why I want to cover fats as the second macronutrient that we want to set when it comes to building out your framework for maximum gains when it comes to dieting is you always want to set your fat target, again, between 0.3 grams of fat per kilogram on the lowest scale, up to 1, or even in some cases, if there's something that needs to be addressed from a hormone standpoint, 1.2, 1.5 grams of fat per kilogram of body weight. However, when it comes to bodybuilding, I often sit on slightly moderate to lower side when it comes to fat intake. And the way I structure my fat intake is on training days, my fat intake tends to be on slightly lower side. On rest days, my fat intake tends to be on slightly higher side, where I always aim to have food volume lower and carbohydrates lower because you simply do not need them on rest days as much as you do on training days to fuel training performance. But we'll get on to carbohydrates next. First, I want to cover fats. When it comes to fat sources, you predominantly want to aim to have majority, and I mean 90% of your fat sources coming from polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. The reason why I set the framework of 0.3 gram per kilogram of body weight up to a gram or even gram and a half in some cases is that the amount of fat that you may need to take in will be largely dependent on the guys that use supplementation versus guys that are natural. Natural guys, you often want to keep your fat intake around 0.5, 0.6, or even 0.7 as a minimum in an off-season setting. In a contest prep, you have to accept that, unfortunately, because fat has so much more calories than protein and carbs, your fat intake will need to come down in order to get stage lean. And that is a fact. I have never ever got or seen a natural athlete get in true contest condition and keep a healthy fat intake in the diet. It just doesn't happen. Bodybuilding is not healthy in that fashion. It is in an off-season setting, however, it's an extreme sport. In order to achieve extreme condition, you have to take extreme measures. Therefore, your fat intake will unfortunately have to come down. Main reason why we use fats is for hormone function, and you actually need fats in order to absorb minerals and in order to absorb vitamins. So guys, my favorite 5 fat sources. Number 1, a good high quality omega product. I personally use Omega Pharma Pro from Trained by JP, and I use 10 capsules per day, spread out across the day. So I will take 2 with my meal 1, 2 with my meal 2, then I will take 2 with my meal 5, and then I will take 4 with my meal 6. I often spread my fat intake out throughout the day with the omegas, and then I have my fat source number 2, which is whole eggs. It's not only one of the tastiest fat sources, but it's one of the most nutrient-dense fat sources that you can actually take in. Number 3, wild Alaskan salmon. The reason why I often choose wild, the quality of fats is just so much better than farmed. Number 4, nuts. Any nuts. My preference is always almond or cashew, and walnuts. Believe it or not, you can actually get walnut butter off Amazon. So I like to vary my fat intake between almond butter, walnut butter, macadamia nut butter, and cashew. That is my number 4. Number 5 is arguably one of my favorites, and that is avocados. Not only avocado is a great source of fiber, but it's a tasty fat source that you can eat with almost anything. I personally eat my avocado with my rice meals on rest days, and I actually eat my avocado pre-bed with my yogurt every single night. I put my avocado in a microwave, I heat it up, I stir it and add it to my yogurt, mix it in, and the texture of that is just so amazing. So avocado is my number 5. And again, these 5 fat sources will cover not only your micronutrient needs, they will give you so much value when it comes to a variety of micronutrients because they're so dense in them, but they will actually give you a tremendous amount of quality of fat sources coming from polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. Now guys, moving on to the favorites. Carbohydrates. Whether you like it or not, you have to accept that carbohydrates are your primary source of fuel when it comes to training performance. So you have to prioritize carbohydrates when it comes to training for performance. Bodybuilding is a performance sport. So you have to prioritize your carbohydrate intake coming from easy digestible sources. Now, the reason why I'm not a fan of brown rice, sweet potato, and other where people seem as popular or beneficial brown foods, brown pasta or even brown bread, is because they digest terribly. So don't use them. When you are having a variety of fruit and veg that you should be taking in, and you're mixing it with the carbohydrates as alongside of a quality protein source, this already slows down the digestion of carbohydrates. So it does not matter if you're eating white or brown rice. What matters the most is not eating that carbohydrate source on its own. You need to have a mixture. When it comes to carbohydrates, the easiest way to set them is you simply set your protein targets with how I already explained, set your fat targets, and then you fill the rest of your calorific needs from carbohydrates across the day. Now, everyone's needs for calories will vary, depending on someone's training age, someone's body weight, someone's activity levels, someone's size, someone's ability to train. All these factors will dictate how much calories you actually burn and need in order to keep you in maintenance, a surplus, or get into a deficit. So once you've set your protein and carbohydrates, you then need to assess the athlete's lifestyle, body weight, and all these other factors in order to set the carbohydrate intake. And roughly you will already have an idea of how much food they're already eating in order to base that to keep them either in maintenance, calorie surplus, or a calorie deficit. Now, even if you don't get it 100% right and you set someone's diet up, simply get them to weigh themselves every day for 6 days, eat the diet exactly, and see what the body weight does. If the body weight holds, they are eating at maintenance. If they drop body weight, they are eating in a calorie deficit. If they gain weight, they are eating a calorie surplus. As simple as that. Now, moving on. My top 5 carbohydrate sources. Number 1, jasmine rice or sushi rice. Rice is my all-time favorite. Tastes amazing. You can eat it with whey, you can eat it with meat sauces, you can have it sweet, savory, you can have it in any way imaginable, and it digests tremendously. Number 2, this is where you are going to see my Polish roots. Potatoes are my second favorite carbohydrate source. For me, potatoes digest incredibly easy, a great source of potassium. They are quite filling, so in a contest prep, they come in handy. But deep into the off-season, you can air fry them, you can mash them, you can eat them in various different ways that makes it so easy and palatable to eat your food. Number 3, fruits are a staple in my diet. Combining fructose and glucose improves your actual carbohydrate uptake. I can send over some studies that actually back this as well. So mixing fruit with rice, for example, will actually improve the absorption uptake of the carbohydrates. So you want to have a variety of fruit for not only a tasty carbohydrates, but the micronutrients they provide, and in some cases fiber. Number 4, cream of rice. Trained by JP Cream of Rice, the best cream of rice in the world, digests incredibly well, tastes amazing, ticks all the boxes for me. And again, rice-based, but with some flavour, which always goes down a treat, both in prep and off-season. You can make it volumized, you can make it super low volume, ticks all the boxes for contest prep and off-season, however you want it, however way you want it. Number 5, last but not least, my nemesis, sourdough bread. For most people, it will digest incredibly well, taste tremendous. For me, I only utilize sourdough where food is extremely high, because for me, sourdough makes me so hungry and it digests so well for me. I tend to stay away from it until I'm at a point where I need to push my food higher, because sourdough is my nemesis. So that is my top 5 carbohydrate sources. Eat for performance, eat carbs, get huge, and don't listen to Teddy Abu. Right now. Right guys, that is my nutrition framework to get huge. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Any questions, anything you want me to delve deeper into, or anything that you want to discuss, please comment below and I'll get it covered. Thank you so much guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the subscribe button, like, share, do all the fun stuff. Peace out for now.